Here's a video about what to expect when you're going to get your bodybuilding tan. I've been meaning to make this video for a while because I felt so unprepared when it was my first competition and my first time getting professional tan. It was such a unique experience that I think it warrants having some kind of warning or heads up about what exactly you're going to go through, because there's literally nothing like this experience. Okay, so usually these the professional tanning process is going to cost you anywhere from, I'd say, $125 to $175. At least that is my experience here on the East Coast. I'm in Virginia. And I have gone all up and down the East Coast to compete, literally. So that is my experience with the cost on average. You will set your appointment. You will get instructions from the tanner, the professional tanner, in your email. It's usually very blanket, very generic. So most of the time, the tanner is either going to be located in the host hotel where the bodybuilding show promoter has arranged for the bodybuilders for the competitors to actually stay at the hotel, like that's nearby the actual venue. Most of the time they're in that hotel, although I have had times where they are at the actual venue, backstage somewhere, just somewhere in the building. So you're gonna go in. If it's in anywhere it is, the room is usually going to be covered in plastic. You're going to walk in. There's going to be a couple of ladies ready to greet you, and there's going to be lines of these little tents. They're super, super cheap tents that are probably about 7 feet tall. They are the width of maybe 3 or 4 feet, just enough for a person to literally sort of like duck in and stand inside them. And you're going to see all these are going to be lined up, usually around the corners of the room, maybe a couple of different rows, faced in a way that they can separate competitors and give them something of a little bit of privacy, because you're going to have to strip down, usually completely naked if you're female. If you're male, you might have to be able to wear a little sock. You might be able to wear some little small underwear, something along those lines. But some of you are just going to have to be naked. You'll strip down inside a tent, and the ladies will usually give you these little sticky pads. They look like little pieces of paper cut out into the shape of the bottom of a shoe. They'll stick onto the bottom of your feet so that you're not having to have your feet bare on these tent floors where other people have stood and received their tan. And the ladies are going to come up to you with a spray gun, and they're going to start instructing you to maneuver into all kinds of indecent positions. I mean, from arms up to legs spread to bending forward, because they're going to be tanning you. They're going to want your hair out of the way. They're going to want to get you at all angles and make sure they spray you thoroughly for your first coat. And it is cold. This spray tan is going to be cold. The room is probably going to be cold because there's going to be lots of fans also blowing. You'll probably hear them when you come into the room, but it might not be super, super loud or noticeable until it's your turn to go and transfer from your first tent into another tent. Usually they transfer you. Sometimes they'll carry the fan over to your existing tent. They'll literally point these little fans at you, and you have to turn around and let yourself dry off. In my experience, most of the time, the tanners want you to, will try and get you dry very quickly within 10 to 20 minutes. I have heard of some tanners just letting you stand there for as long as it takes. Sometimes an obnoxious amount of time to let you dry. But in my experience, it doesn't take them that long. If they will come up to you, the ladies, and they'll have their gloves on, and they'll kind of like check you to see if your tan is still sticky or tacky. And if you are not drying, they might have some kind of powder that they have with a little brush and sort of brush it onto your tan to try to force it to dry. And the powder could be something store-bought, or it might be something homemade that's just like cornstarch and cocoa powder mixture. And basically that's it. They will send you on their way. If you are on time or early, a lot of times they'll take you early because a lot of people no-show to these appointments in my experience. So it might be in your interest to show up early, at least for your first tan. Your first tan will take place the day before your competition. What else? Am I missing anything? I think that's the experience for your first coat of tan. They'll usually want it to happen in the afternoon, the day before the competition. They'll have different groups of competitors coming in at different times. And they will try to separate people, at least if they have more than one person tanning at a time. They'll try to keep the men on one side and the women on the other so that at least the men aren't able to walk by you or see you out of the corner of their eyes. If they do have to shepherd a man past your tent, then in my experience, they'll take a towel and hold the towel up for a little privacy window for you. So just be prepared for that. Perfectly likely that someone is going to be seeing you naked. Pretty likely that another female competitor will see you naked, because they'll usually just if you're a female and you're getting a tan, another female might just be shepherded right by you. You take off the sticky pads. They might offer you a shiwi, which is like this little plastic thing that you can pee into that will shoot your pee in the correct direction and prevent any kind of spraying on your lady parts or your inner thighs. And they might go over with you and they might not go over with you how to protect your tan when you have to pee. So when you get your tan, you want to prevent getting your tan wet at all costs, including when you are using the bathroom. So this can be a little challenging. Even when you're washing your hands, you really only want to wash, as little as possible, because a lot of times they'll try to get a little bit of tan started on the back of your hands and around your wrists. So you have to be careful when you're washing your hands. You can't really do any dishes during this time. And a lot of people will talk to you about how, be careful not to pee on your tan because you will ruin your tan. And I want to just correct this, because this is just the first layer of your tan. This first coat, this first layer, is basically different than the tan that you will be getting on the day of for your second coat, your touch-up coat, your top coat, whatever you want to call it. The purpose of this particular tan is to be left on your skin so that it can slowly darken you over the next 24 hours, basically. And it's really, really important that it be left on your skin for probably 4 to 8 hours to really let it get the full effect. After that, its magic kind of stops working, in my opinion, and I think in many professionals' opinion as well. So, okay, so how to pee and not impact and not get it on yourself. You can use a shiwi, but I have not had good experiences with a shiwi, because just because you are peeing into a funnel, literally, does not mean that there won't be any kind of splashback. When you're peeing into a toilet, it could splash back no matter what. I would recommend that you pee into a medium-sized Dixie cup or medium-sized red Solo cup. You don't want it to be too big. You want it to be small enough that you can, that the rims of the cup will not reach your inner thigh, basically. So that's about the size of cup you want to pee into, so that you can literally touch it to yourself and prevent any kind of pee from splashing onto your thighs. If this happens, though, it is not the end of the world. If you do end up accidentally peeing on yourself and getting a spot on your tan, do not panic. Take a towel or a piece of TP and gently pat it as quickly as you can to make sure you get the liquid off of your skin. Just double check yourself every time you're done using the bathroom or washing your hands or anything. Check to make sure you haven't got anything splashed on you. If you have, just quickly dab it so that you absorb the liquid. The worst thing that could happen is if the whatever liquid you got on yourself starts to run. And if it leaves a little trail as as it flows down your body at some point, that is probably going to be the hardest thing to correct, but it's still not the end of the world. Because the next day, before your show, at some point, you're going to go back in for a touch-up. And that's, for a lot of people, if you don't need a dark second coat, that's the purpose of the touch-up, just to go in and kind of cover any imperfections, right? Although a lot of tanners, they will just do a second coat for everyone. Depending on how fair you are, you might need a thicker and more intense second coat than other people. Sometimes this is me, obviously. I'm a vampire. But a lot of times they will do this with your bikini on. Some people will have you have the bikini off for the second coat, but that's not as common. Usually they'll have you come with your bikini on, no heels, no jewelry, and they will just give you a second coat, a second brush through, again, with the same gun. It is technically a different product most of the time because it's darker. It's not something that's going to have to sit on your skin for a long period of time to slowly darken your skin, right? So a lot of times this will be a little bit of a darker tan. They'll touch up any imperfections, any kind of watermarks that you've gotten, and that's it. Besides going in and getting your glaze before your show, that's what you can expect. So don't be like me. If you accidentally do get your tan wet the night before, do not panic. You will be able to get a touch-up. You do not have to go purchase any self-tanning products to do your own touch-ups. The ladies who you have hired as professionals will take care of you. And if you've paid for the tanning, the cost always includes a glaze before you go, soon before you go on stage. A lot of times, you will get your second coat of your tan at the venue. Sometimes it will also be at the host hotel, and then the spray tanners will come behind stage and give you your glaze before you go on stage. But most of the time, the show tanners, I would say, are at the venue somewhere, and you will get your second coat at the venue, and then once again, you will go see them again to get your glaze before you go on stage there. And it may not be very private either. Sometimes the show tanners will be directly behind stage. Competitors could come around the corner and look to their left or right and see you there getting your spray tan. So it may not be very private at all. Just a heads up. In my experience, I would definitely try and nail down actual appointment times for both. It's easy to get an appointment with your tanners the day before. The day of, it depends on who your tanner is. Some of them will have you actually come in at a specific set time, and others will sort of wing it and just call your name from a checklist. If they are calling your name from a checklist, be prepared to be a little pushy because it may, in my experience, they could start running behind. They could call out your name and you could miss it, or they could just miss you altogether. So keep track of the time when you are supposed to be going on stage, and if you need to go and ask them to get your second coat or to get your glaze, do not be afraid to do this. It depends on how organized the tanner is. Even when you do get a specific time to come back the day of the competition, a lot of times, even though it sounds like you have an appointment time, it's not actually an individual appointment time. It will be an appointment time for your category. okay? For your category. What does that mean? If you are bikini, then that professional tanner has likely told all of the bikini girls to come back at the same time as you. And so you will arrive and lo and behold, there will be a full line of other bikini girls. So you want to nip this in the bud? Arrive early so that you can either get first in line or so that you don't have to wait in a super, super long line. Just a heads up, because this can be very frustrating. I've had frustrating experiences where we've gotten very, very close to the time when I'm supposed to go on stage and I haven't received either my second coat of tan, or more frequently, I haven't gotten my glaze. That's a lot more common. It's very common for the show tanners to run behind schedule, to miss people. So be prepared to advocate for yourself. Speak up, ask questions, ask if you can go ahead and get your second coat, even if they're working on another group of competitors. If you are getting close to your show time, within 2 hours of your show time, I would definitely not wait any closer than 2 hours to when you're supposed to step on stage to start asking for your second coat, to start asking for your glaze. Glaze might be a little closer, but keep in mind as well that a lot of bodybuilding shows, the schedules are not set in stone. So you may end up going to the venue and getting ready and thinking that you're perfectly on schedule. Even the show tanner may be running exactly on schedule, but then suddenly they want you to go on stage sooner than your scheduled time, and bam, you have not had your actual second coat and or your glaze done. So be prepared for all of these things. Be prepared to very closely listen to what's going on with the schedule. The expediter, the person that is backstage with the clipboard with all the competitor names, can usually keep you up to date on any schedule changes. You can keep going back and talking to them. Keep it an active conversation so that you are in the loop and you don't get surprised. All right, so hopefully that is helpful to everyone. A good practice I also recommend is to bring your own glaze just in case, even if you are getting a professional tan, because this is the most likely and most often thing that will be missed or skipped or forgotten. There's a lot going on backstage, and it's very easy to miss this step. So I would purchase the Pro Tan glaze and have that in your bag, and never spray the glaze directly onto your skin. Bring plastic gloves as well that you can put on. Spray the glaze onto the glove and then rub it onto your body to complete your own glaze if you have to. If you spray it directly on your skin, it's most likely going to cause your tan to run, and it can ruin parts of your tan, especially if you have a part of your body that is, if your skin is oily or if your skin is overly moisturized, then sometimes the tan won't really stick to the skin. It will be sitting on top of the skin, and when you add that show glaze, it will start to drip. For me, the problem area is always the chest. So hopefully all these tips have been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Sorry this is long, but I just wish someone had had all these conversations with me the day before, because man, it's been a lot. It's been a lot to learn. It's been a lot to get used to. Good luck on your first show. Have an amazing time. Let me know if you have any questions, and give me a follow if you like this content. I hope to put out some more, hopefully not quite this long, similar, but take care, guys.